here's Kristian Garic.
Our next guest, I'm sure, recognizes that song. Jason Smith, candidate for Washington Parish Sheriff. Jason, how are you? Thanks for the time.
Kristian, that was a dirty trick you pulled on me. I'm in my truck, and I'm unable to stand up at attention when you played the Marine Corps hymn, so I'm going to have to counsel myself later now.
Look, first, Jason, again, thanks for the time, and I just want to get into your background. 22 years you served in the United States Marine Corps as an officer, Marine Corps infantry officer, also 2 tours in Iraq as a company commander, and a Silver Star recipient. Pretty decorated, pretty neat story you have.
Well, thank you. I'd like to say that I had it all planned out when I decided to join the Marine Corps coming out of LSU, so that's what I'll say, but the truth is actually very different. It's hard to think, you look back on it, and 22 years went by in the blink of an eye, but here we are.
Yeah, it's amazing. The 4 years I did as an enlisted dude, it flew by, and I don't know about you, Jason, but joining the Marine Corps, you joined in a different way as a commissioned officer. It doesn't matter. It was the greatest decision I ever made in my life.
No, I can't disagree with that at all. I tell people all the time that, and I was on recruiting duty in New Jersey for 3 years. I was in charge of all recruiting up there. But I would tell parents all the time that the best thing that the Marine Corps provides is an opportunity for people to get away from where they're from. Not that they're trying to run from something, but it gives them an opportunity to do things on their own. They're put in positions and situations that they would have never been put in or seen otherwise. And they get to learn a little bit about themselves. Stress reveals character. And you can look back on your perspective in your hometown in a different way. The truth is, I've met some of the best people I'll ever meet in my life as a result of the Marine Corps. And I've been places and have been able to do things that I never would have been to or been able to do had I not joined the Marine Corps. And so for that, I'm very, very thankful.
What company did you command?
I was commander of Bravo Company, 1st Battalion, 5th Marines.
So that was out of Camp Lejeune, right? 1st Battalion, 5th Marine?
That was Camp Pendleton.
Oh, it was Pendleton. Okay. Yep. I was 1-8 Weapons Company. I know you're infantry officer. I was a Mortem in 0341. And again, as we can talk about this for days on end. I just want to know from a leadership perspective, when you're a company commander, it's very similar to the office that you're gonna run for, and that's Washington Parish Sheriff. You've had countless Marines under your command. Just talk about leadership and what that means to you, and what do you value? What do you think makes a great leader?
Well, this is hard to explain to people that don't have the same perspective that we have as Marines, because the Marine Corps really prides itself on leadership. I think most people conceive of leadership as the person that's in charge or the person that signs my paycheck, when the reality is that in order to be a leader, you've got to convince people to do things that they would not ordinarily do on their own. And if the Marine Corps can do anything, if you can convince people to run into machine gun fire, you're doing something, you're doing exactly that. You're convincing them to do something they wouldn't do on their own. And the way that you go about doing that doesn't require a manual, because it's all about personal interactions and personal relationships. The benefit that the Marine Corps gives to its new officers is that it puts every officer through an entry-level training that consists of 6 months of essentially leadership training. Really putting the best interests of your men before yours, really trying to figure out where those points of friction are that slow things down, and then getting into those points, whether you're going to be grease or whether you're going to be a boot, and trying to force things through. You really start to personify that selfless leadership that makes successful units successful. And then the other thing that the Marine Corps does, is that it puts you in kind of a laboratory of leadership. So as an infantry officer, you go to an infantry battalion and you've got, 9 rifle platoons across the battalion. Well, you're going there with your peer group that went through the same training as you. And so you can see when you step in front of a platoon for the first time, and for your listeners, a platoon is, roughly 30 guys, most of whom are older than you are as a brand new lieutenant, all of whom have more experience than you as a lieutenant. And you have to take charge and figure out what are the needs of that unit and how to get these guys to respond to you. But as you're doing this, you get to look at your other friends, your other peers in front of their platoons, and you're seeing what works and what doesn't work. And you steal ideas from them, and you steal little tricks from them, and you try to avoid certain things that aren't working for other people. It's just a completely different experience than most people go through. Most people, if they're ever put in charge of anybody, they're just kind of learning with no kind of education and no kind of experience, and they make a lot of bad mistakes. Luckily, as a young second lieutenant in the Marine Corps, you're able to make a lot of mistakes, and you can survive them, and you can learn from them, and you're putting them in a position later on to learn from it, and you get better.
Jason Smith is our guest here. He's a candidate for Washington Parish Sheriff, he's retired United States Marine infantry officer, two tours in combat in Iraq as a company commander, recipient of the Silver Star. Jason, one of the things that, tell me if you agree with this, one of the things that, and again, I didn't lead a company, I led a squad in an 81 millimeter mortar platoon, and even still, they encouraged us, one of the things that they impressed upon us all the time as a squad leader or leader of any kind, excuse me, is to know what makes your guys tick. Intimately kind of get to know them, right up into, what their family life was like. Mom, dad, brother, sister, those kind of intimate conversations, I think, breeds trust.
No, I think that's right. And from a unit effectiveness standpoint, it allows you as a leader to put that person in a larger context. The reality is that most people want to do a good job. Mm-hmm. Sometimes when they don't do a good job, it's not because they're not putting forth effort, it's because they're otherwise distracted with things that are going on. Life happens to all of us. And the more you know about the people that you're responsible for, the better position you're in order to help them navigate their unique circumstances. And that's really what the job of leadership requires, is you're proposing unique solutions to unique problems. I've got 5 kids, and so my wife and I comment fairly regularly that these 5 kids are so different from each other and different from us when they've got the same parents. Because the thing that you tell one child is different than, it'll be the same thing that you tell all the children, and yet you'll get probably 7 or 8 different responses out of the 5 kids. And then you'll tell your kids something 1,000 times, and somebody else could tell your kids something, the same thing, the same way, and it'll get a different response. It's just that implicit, or it's that level of personal connection that doesn't translate well to a manual. But again, all that just to say that the more that you know about the people that you're responsible for, the better you are going to be placed in order to help them through their problems, whatever they are.
Jason, did in your company, or maybe when you were a platoon commander, did anybody, any new Marine get the old, hey, go find the liquid squelch, or go ask the staff sergeant, the platoon sergeant for the left-handed bayonet?
Oh yeah, we had the left-handed smoke shifters. We had the nighttime running lights for the Humvee. We had the keys to the Humvee. All those little things that Marines like to pull on each other. I had a Marine running around in circles, pouring canteens on his head, canteens of water, because they had broken a chem light and doused him with it. And of course, you'll know this, the sights and the compasses were iridium. And so they had convinced this Marine that the iridium in the nighttime sights on the compass were radioactive. And of course, he needed to douse himself with a canteen in order to clear himself of the radioactive contamination. But the funny thing is those things, when you take them out of hand, then it turns into hazing. And of course, you can actually divide a unit. And I would always express it was mostly corporals, who are in this leadership position for the first time, that, hey, there's things that you can do, but instead of abusing a guy or making him feel like an outsider, why don't you take him on a long run, like as a unit, like do something difficult together, That way you have bonded with him. You've had this experience, because adversity will breed cohesion as long as you're all doing it together. And he can really then start to see that, hey, my unit, my leadership has my best interest at heart. Yes, they're willing to put me through things that I think are uncomfortable at the time, but I can recognize that there's a greater goal, and it's not just for them to make fun of me.
Jason, we're going to get into the issues in a minute, but I just wanted to, there was a time where we had a new batch of Marines come in the unit. And we were in the field, and we'd conduct an operation, and I dip, and one of the young privates asked for a dip, and I gave it to him. He was above 18, obviously, and he passed out from the rush, right? Passed out in the field, and I'm thinking I'm getting court-martialed. I'm going to end up getting court-martialed over this thing.
Yeah, that was not the intended effect.
No, I thought I was going to jail. I thought I killed him. I'm going to jail. Anyway, he recovered fine, but it was a scary moment, brief moment. All right, Jason, sit tight. We're going to dive into the issues for Washington Parish as the candidate for sheriff of Washington Parish. Jason, sit tight. This is the Kristian Garic Show here on WGSO. I've been running like a man possessed. I thought it was very easy. Don't fall apart when I'm under the gun. You can break my heart, and I ain't gonna run. I know it's scary. Hey, it's Kristian. When it comes to buying appliances, buy where the builders buy, and that's at DTS Appliance Direct. Shop local. Don't go to the big box store when you need a new appliance. Call my friends at DTS Appliance Direct, 504-766-0738. DTS Appliance Direct has brands from GE, Cafe, Monogram, Blaze Grills, Z-Line, and many more. DTS Appliance Direct, 504-766-0738. 504-766-0738.
Hi, this is State Treasurer John Schroeder with an important message. $4.4 million of unclaimed property checks are going out to citizens across the state as a result of a data match with the Louisiana Department of Revenue. We do this annually, and each year about 20% of those checks go uncashed. If you get a check in the mail from the Louisiana Department of Treasury Unclaimed Property Program, cash it. It's real. It's your money, Louisiana. For more information, go to latreasury.com.
North Shore Toyota, NorthShoreToyota.com, the fastest, easiest way to buy your next new Toyota or high-quality pre-owned. North Shore Toyota has a great selection of new Toyotas on the ground, online, with more arriving every day. Plus, every new Toyota is backed with our complimentary lifetime powertrain warranty. Shopping for a used car? North Shore Toyota is your go-to destination for a big selection of used cars, trucks, and SUVs. Fast, friendly, always easy. North Shore Toyota, convenient from anywhere. I-12 and 190 in Covington.
The Community Center at Christwood is a 23,000 square foot state-of-the-art fitness center serving adults in the greater North Shore area ages 55 and up, featuring an indoor heated pool for year-round swimming, indoor pickleball, a wide array of exercise equipment, and an aerobic studio with classes designed for every ability. Enjoy on-site dining in our Forever Fit kitchen or relax at our full-service Lotus Spa. Call today for a free one-week fitness center pass at 985-292-1217. That's 985-292-1217.
Donate your vehicle and make a difference. WGSO 990 AM has partnered with Charitable Adult Rides and Services, also known as CARS, to allow you the opportunity to donate your car, truck, motorcycle, RV, or boat to our nonprofit organization. You may qualify for a tax deduction while supporting a cause that is near and dear to your heart. Simply go to WGSO.com and follow the link on our homepage. Vehicle donation pickup is always free to you, and most vehicles can be picked up within 24 to 72 hours. You'll receive an initial car donation receipt upon pickup, and then the CARS team will work to turn your car into cash to support our cause. Once your vehicle is sold, the CARS team will provide you proper tax forms in time to file. Their friendly donor support representatives are available 7 days a week to assist throughout the process. Again, for more information, go to WGSO.com.
Destroying wokeness one conversation at a time. Welcome back to the Kristian Garic Show, right here on WGSO 990 AM and WGSO.com.
We're hanging out with Jason Smith. He's running for Washington Parish Sheriff. He's a retired Marine officer, two-time combat veteran, also recipient of the Silver Star. Jason, let's jump right into the issues here in Washington Parish as you see it. What is facing Washington Parish, and what would you like to do and implement should you become elected?
Well, the biggest problem we've got facing in Washington Parish is that people just don't feel safer in the parish than they did 12 years ago. There's a variety of reasons for that. You know, people will generally say that drugs is the biggest problem, but it affects different parts of the parish differently. You look at Bogalusa, and the violence that's being perpetrated by the drugs and the drug culture is a huge concern. It's probably the biggest concern for the entire parish. But if you look at the rural parts of the parish, you know, I live out in Mount Herman, but if you go anywhere from Angie to Pine to Thomas, the problem is property crimes that are associated with drugs and people trying to feed their habit or generate revenue in order to feed their habit. And then there's not a family in this parish that's not affected by drugs in some way. And so then we're concerned about the risk of overdoses associated with drugs and drug use. All of that combines to a situation where we just do not feel safer than we did 12 years ago. Now, we have a sheriff's office that's got a large amount of resources and has the ability to affect certain things, and we're not really living up to the potential of the sheriff's office currently. We have a sheriff's office that is sitting on the sidelines at the organizational level and watching the security situation in Bogalusa deteriorate. Now, I'm not saying that the sheriff is responsible for what goes on inside the city limits of Bogalusa because they have a mayor and they have a city council and they have a police force. But the sheriff and the sheriff's department is probably the organization that's most ideally situated in order to get stuck into the security situation in Bogalusa. And the only thing preventing it right now is a reluctance to work with the mayor, the city council, and the police department in order to get things done. You know, at the street level, at the police officer level, the working relationships are often very good. But at the organizational level, the sheriff really should be required to have very good working relationships with the parish president and the parish council and the district attorney and the municipal governments of Franklinton and Bogalusa and their mayors and city councils and police departments. Not to mention, we've got Mississippi on two sides of us, and so you should have good relationships with their municipal governments and their sheriff's departments. And not even to mention the adjacent and supporting law enforcement agencies that are in Bogalusa, whether they're the ATF, DEA, FBI, state police. All of those relationships seem to be fairly dysfunctional just because it's not been a priority to affect the security situation. The truth is that we've dealt with things in Washington Parish from an outdated perspective. You know, we're doing things like they were done 50 years ago, where the sheriff would be content to go to public events and shake hands and take pictures and make people feel good that they were noticed. When the reality is the job of sheriff has changed, the security situation has changed, the world has changed, and Washington Parish has changed. You know, 25 years ago, the racial makeup looked a lot different than it does now in Washington Parish. 25 years ago, we didn't have anybody from St. Charles Parish in Washington Parish. There's people that are moving here because in other parts of Louisiana, we've lost what we in Washington Parish still have. So that's an opportunity for us, but we have to look into the next 4 years and not do things the way they were done 50 years ago, because those times are gone. The challenges we have over the next 4 years are going to require somebody to be ambitious, to be young, to be energetic, and to have a perspective that we can make this parish safer. My focus really, and you know this from the Marine Corps, is that we are essentially a peacekeeping force. Now, we have to use force in order to keep the peace, but anytime we use force, it's in order to de-escalate the situation and make people feel safer. My job as sheriff is to protect us from each other, not to protect you from yourself. And so we need to do a better job of being proactive and using judgment and nuance and personal relationships in order to make the parish safer, to make people feel safer in their homes. Right now, we currently have, we've mentioned the property crimes, the people walking the roads at night, but I haven't even talked about the child abuse that goes on in the parish, the animal abuse that goes on in the parish. We've got a lot to do, and now it's all solvable, you understand. It's a place where we can really get stuck in and achieve some results. We've just got to be able to change our perspective and be willing to try something different than what we tried before.
Jason Smith, candidate for Washington Parish Sheriff here on the Kristian Garic Show. You mentioned on your website institutional changes that you want to make. Tell me about a couple of those.
Well, the institutional changes really revolve around personalities. I had said from the outset that I wanted to break away from the stereotypical model of a sheriff coming in and cleaning house. You know, historically, sheriffs have brought in their team of people that they feel as if they're more loyal to. I just think that's a very wasteful way to go about it. My experience in the Marine Corps, anytime I took over a unit, I never had the option just to fire or clean house. I worked with the people that were there. And, of course, in the Marine Corps, you can't fire anybody. You try to put people in jobs in which they can achieve their potential. And that's my perspective going into the Sheriff's Department. Now, I recognize that there will be people that don't particularly like a new standard, that are very comfortable in the way things have been done in the past. And we may have to decide to transition people to different jobs or maybe outside the organization, but it's not going to be because of political reasons. It's just going to be because the nature of the job has changed. It's going to be purely for operational reasons. The reality is that we're still going to enforce laws. We're still going to collect taxes. We're still going to do all of the things that the sheriff has been tasked with doing by the Constitution. It's just the manner in which we do things is what's really going to change.
Jason Smith, where can folks get more information about you and your campaign?
You can find us at sheriffjasonsmith.com, or you can find us on Facebook. We're fairly recognizable. We've been going a lot to put out videos of things that I think are important to talk about. But those are the two best ways to find us right now, sheriffjasonsmith.com and on Facebook.
Jason, once again, thanks for your service to this country, and good luck in your campaign, and I'm sure we'll get you on before Election Day, probably a couple of times, if that's okay with you.
Hey, that'd be great. I look forward to it. Thanks so much.
All right, you bet. Jason Smith, candidate for Washington Parish Sheriff. Check him out, sheriffjasonsmith.com. Coming up after the top of the hour, Jeff Ister. He is also a former veteran, or he is a veteran, excuse me. And he's coming up. He's running for governor of the great state of Louisiana, so we'll get to know Jeff Ister here in a little bit. Also, John Fleming next hour. He's running for state treasurer. He'll join us at 1:35. Our air care, air conditioning, and heating phone lines are open at 504-556-9696. 1 hour pretty much in the books. One more hour to go. Again, our air care, air conditioning, and heating phone lines are open at 504-556-9696. I'm trying to give you, the listening audience, the best perspective or the best information to get to know these candidates in our statewide elections coming up in October. All right, this is the Kristian Garic Show here on WGSO.